Being honest in a relationship is the best policy.
Okay.
Being upfront about your intentions is generally never incorrect. So let me stop right there.
Right.
That break this up.
Fact. Your intentions should be known.
Being upfront about your intentions is generally never
Don't
incorrect.
Be wishy-washy.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was listening to something else, and it was talking about playing hard to get as a rule of thumb.
Yes.
Like whether that should be adopted by women or not.
So here's the thing. I feel like you can play hard to get to a limit. Because I feel like it can go to the extreme and then it's just like, I'm tired. I'm off to the next.
As the man. Okay.
And it's like, I feel like sometimes like he has every right because you're just playing too hard where you really like him, but you're not trying to show your cards or your feelings and you just missed out on your blessing. So, but no, I really feel like your intentions should be known. They should be upfront. Yeah. And clear. So that way it's like you going into something, it's not like, oh, I'm just here to have fun. And I, or the other person is looking like, settle down. And it's like, oh, you waste all this time, like blah, blah, blah. But then you get into the where people say what they want up front and how things are going to be. And then people make up stuff in their mind.
Yeah.
And then that's where the problem comes.
That does happen as well.
Right.
No, it's funny. I think it has to do to me with the maturity of people in dating, right? Like being upfront with your intentions to me should always, but I also understand scenarios or types of engagements where, well, no, I can't think of a use case where you shouldn't be upfront with your intentions. I just think it saves everybody time, but people don't operate that way. At the end of the day, it's like about outcomes. So someone may not be interested in leading with their intentions if they don't think it's going to deliver the outcome that they are desiring.
Right. And then sometimes they think, okay, well, if I play the game this way, in a couple weeks, whatever, I can change the person, or they'll feel this way about me and they'll want to, acquiesce to them, or like it. Again, people shouldn't try to change people that they're with because it's not going to work. And then also it's just like, if you're both honest and upfront about what your intentions are, it helps when all the feelings and the hearts and the butterflies and the gushiness gets all jumbled in there. So you're not confused.
Yeah, no, I think about how much we are guided by our own desires and how it influences what we see. It's like two people can look at a certain situation and see very different things depending on what their interest is in it.
Right. Like one man's trash is another man's treasure.
And that's why I think it's important that you have the opportunity for people to, and that's why the whole networking thing I think is important in terms of like marriage, because it should be around a circle of people that can vet the person to a degree.
Okay, but what about the people where it's like their network don't really know them?
Right. I mean, I hear you. And I think, I mean, we're talking about modern day anyway. So it's
modern day, everything's a DM.
Right. So I'm just saying, when I think about like an ideal situation, it makes sense that you are marrying someone that is part of a system in which they can be vetted.
Right.
Put it that way. A system in which they can be vetted.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But now, I mean, it's a different world out there with the sliding in the DM.
Mm-hmm.
People don't live in the same state. Like, yeah.
But hey, I mean, that's why maybe part of why we're creating Sam's community.
Right.
It's like a community of individuals that, we network as friends and get to all know each other, and ultimately questions can be asked through, and so I think we are sort of in part creating what I feel like is required for, and quite frankly, Sam's community is not simply a relationship kind of
No,
focus
it's
group.
about people.
It's about people, it's about community,
Individuals, yeah.
families, like it's the whole nine. I
Yes.
think as a community of people, we can band together with our neighbors, with like-minded people, even with people who have very different thoughts about certain things. But I think there's certain core interests around safety, protection, opportunity that I think allows alignment, where again, you can create your own support system, and I
Yes.
think that's what we're interested in developing. And through that, there's so much that can happen through that kind of reinforcement, even in terms of addressing individual needs within a group. I think there's certainly a lot of different opportunities that can we can achieve through that. So I think having relationships are important, in my opinion. A network is important, and I think when we think about marriage and relationships, and committing your life to someone, having the ability to have them, like I said, a system that can vet them, because you are going to infuse them in your life.
Right. And think about, like, again, back in the day, or different cultures where it's like, you have this village, this community, to where it's like they are together, they work together, they interact with each other, family, friends, neighbors down the street, like, so it's just a connectedness.
A connectedness.
Like that.
I do like that. A connectedness. All right, here we go.
Okay, I'm ready.
So the rest of the statement. Sometimes we try to protect ourselves from others by being dishonest about our intentions. Usually that approach does not offer the protection one desired. But one of the things that you said earlier was about playing the game, right? It's like, well, you can do it up to a point. And so walk me through like what you meant by that.
Okay, so just like the last statement you said, someone that said, all right, I'm gonna talk for a female side. So, really likes a guy, and you feel like he likes you, but the actions aren't really aligning. But you're just like, okay, I'm gonna just keep with this, like keep being fun or whatever he really likes, so he can continue to engage. And then you feel like, oh, I don't even want to say change, but he'll see your full potential, kind of thing, or all of you. He'll see you to where he'll claim you.
Okay, so
like, did I not answer your question right? So,
well, it was more along the lines of to protect yourself, and you're
right. So it's like I wouldn't, like, I may really like him, right? I may really like him, but I'm not going to just flat out say, I like you a really lot. Like, hey, you want to be boyfriend or girlfriend? If people say that still. But so I'm just going to keep playing this casual hangout thing, even though inside it's eating me up.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, we see other people.
I see what you're saying.
And they don't. They want just.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Okay.
This is great, because I do believe that generally is a one. So I think that that's funny. I didn't even think about that part of it before, where you don't want to come across as too Joe, right? You don't want to come across as needy too much, or too excited. You want to have the same kind of balanced response
and I met you yesterday
that the other person is showing, right?
Yes.
And I get that, and that's fair. But I wonder, again, when we think about marriage, like, to me, being in a situation where you don't have to, like, because ultimately the goal is that you get to a point where you are not doing that.
Correct.
Right. So how does that effectively happen? And if he responds differently to that, is he wrong?
It depends what was said up front.
Well, again, if you're not, and there's where the game part to me can be a little bit complicated. I understand it in the concept of protection, and here's what I'll say,
Okay.
because I understand your analogy in saying, hey, I really like this person, and again, about outcomes. It's like I could be genuine, or I could try to get what I'm actually desiring.
Right.
In order to do that,
right.
I
don't want to scare them away.
Right. So sometimes you might not want to scare them away, so you don't push too hard. And other times you push harder, because it's like you really want them to know, hey, this is how I feel about you, and maybe that's from the guy's perspective sometimes. But the reason I thought I talked about protection is sometimes I think that there's a scenario where one might play a game to try to see how the person responds to negative situations. Meaning, like, I know that there are scenarios in dating or courting, whatever you want to call it, where women will potentially purposefully get the gentleman mad to see how they will respond. Not because, like I guess it's like picking a fight,
right?
Like pick the fight to see how they are in those scenarios. Right. It's like that's how they're trying to gauge, like, hey, if he blows his top, then like I need to step back. But to me, I agree. I don't know if creating those out of nothing just to see how they respond to it. I mean, again, but to each his own. Like, people do what they do for various reasons. Personally, I think that that's a slippery slope potentially. But again, I at least I understand why people would play games per se, as a level of protection in this feeling out period, especially since, like you said, or like, even if I suggested the whole vetting, there isn't that kind of opportunity, that there isn't that network, there isn't that system to vet. So then, like, what then do? You test.
Right.
Since you can't vet, maybe you test.
Right.